Hey, this is Blithen.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Not too bad.
FlowerChild here.
I, for some reason, was expecting you to be, like, from France or something.
No, man. I think you would have been better off expecting Darth Vader at this stage.
I think we got Battosay here.
Cool. Is my voice coming through okay?
Oh, yeah, perfectly.
All right.
Battosay?
Yeah, just a sec.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, how's it going?
Guys. Hey, glad to finally meet you guys.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, no kidding. All right,
It's been a long time.
So you just want to get this cranked out then?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. So the first question is what got you into Minecraft, and how long did you enjoy it before the implementation of wolves propelled you into action?
Well, let's see. I think I got into Minecraft just after Christmas, so sometime in January, early January. And yeah, I don't know. I was really excited about the game to begin with. Had a lot of fun with it, all that kind of thing. And I'd say about maybe 20 to 30 hours into it, I kind of hit a wall, started getting tired of it, this kind of thing. And I'd actually been putting off getting into the redstone aspect of it, and finally decided to give it a go at that stage. And I became hooked all over again. Like at that point, it was basically, okay, I'm completely sold on the game, and it practically turned into a hobby into itself.
Yeah.
But one thing that I quickly became kind of disenchanted with was that while there was this beautiful system that Mojang had put into place with redstone, there wasn't actually a hell of a lot that you could do with it beyond the theoretical, right? Like, you could start opening doors or what have you, create some basic traps with the pressure plates and this kind of thing. But once you got over that, like, unless you started building CPUs or what have you, there wasn't anything in between, right? There just wasn't a lot that you could accomplish in the game beyond, like, setting up double doors. So I started thinking that was something that was really lacking. Like, the redstone system was absolutely beautiful, great fucking game design idea, like, overall. But it just seemed like the implementation had been dropped at a certain point, and it really looked like it needed more work. And I started seeing more and more of those kind of systems within Minecraft. Like, probably some of the most interesting, I'm a big fan of multi-block systems by this point. And probably some of the most interesting features of Minecraft were those kind of multi-block systems, although they were in a very primitive form, right? So you'd have the redstone system, which can be considered multi-block, certainly. You had minecarts, which could be considered multi-block, but which were kind of half broken. Like a lot of people mention the furnace cart, and stuff like that. It's like, half implemented ideas that are really good, but which kind of don't go anywhere,
Yeah.
There's redstone, minecarts, and I'd say mob traps were the other, multi-block system in Minecraft where, you'd build this huge, contraption to accomplish an in-game goal. Even though, again, like a lot of times the in-game goals didn't go anywhere, like, okay, you build a mob trap, you collect all this loot, and, once you get over, like, blowing lots of shit up with TNT, like, you end up realizing that the output of the contraption you've built is pretty much useless. Like, it doesn't go anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
So I guess after that stage, where I got into redstone and, I was completely sold on the game, I kept hoping with each update that, these systems would be further developed, like they would actually end up going somewhere. Like, to me, each of them kind of represented the promise of something to come, rather than a completed system.
Yeah.
But as I saw more and more updates coming out, I began to realize that this just wasn't happening, that these systems were just being left as is. And, I began to get the impression that the game creator was considering them complete, So I guess, like, to get back to your original question, like with the thing with the wolves, I'm not sure the exact time frame. I guess that was like towards the end of March, like when 1.4 came out with the wolves or what have you. And with the weeks leading up to that release, like Notch announced wolves. He announced that he went to E3 and like somebody had convinced him to do it, like some game idol of his. Just based on my experience in the industry, like I immediately guessed Peter Molyneux was like the guy in question that had suggested it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never had any real confirmation of that. I'm not certain, But I got the impression, like when I first heard about that like, Notch being a young developer had gone off to a game conference, had met an idol, had stars in his eyes, got kind of convinced of like this time sync feature, that I knew like a virtual pet system is extremely difficult to implement, right? Like entire games are devoted to like, virtual pets. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So to suddenly tack it on to a larger project like Minecraft, just like it struck me as an incredibly bad idea. But at that point I was just willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, see what comes out of it. Okay, maybe, he's realized something brilliant, because I really do believe Notch is a brilliant guy. Like I think Minecraft overall is like, just an absolutely stellar idea. So I have nothing before respect for Notch in that regard. But at the same time, like when I saw him do this wolf thing or propose this idea, I was very reluctant. And then when it actually came out, it was basically all my fears were realized, like as everybody knows at this point, the wolves are just friggin' dirt stupid. Right? They push you off cliffs,
they run in the lava, yeah.
Yeah. You can't get them through doors. You can't do shit with them, And, that's not a failing on Notch's part. I think that's more just a failing of the concept to begin with. Like everything in Minecraft up to that point was based on these very simple monsters, like in terms of AI, right? With a creeper or a skeleton or a pig or a cow, if this thing goes walking off a cliff, like, you don't really care. Like you get a bit of a laugh out of it. And in a way that like simplistic AI, led to emergent gameplay, right? It's like the whole thing with mob traps, like so many, including myself, like so many people spend, tens and 20s and even hundreds of hours like on mob trap design. And that's all thanks to the simplistic AI, right? The creatures are stupid, so you're able to channel them into water flows and, do all kinds of interesting stuff with them that if they had a full-fledged game AI, you just wouldn't be able to do. So it would basically like, by putting in better AI and having these things be more dangerous and more human, I guess you'd say, you'd actually be killing a huge aspect of Minecraft gameplay, right? So I saw the wolves and that's it. It's like, it would take a huge amount of time investment to get them to work right, to behave as a virtual pet. And if you don't go that far, right, like, again, a cow or a pig or whatever, it falls off a cliff and you get a chuckle out of it and you can even use it in your gameplay. But something like a pet, something like a dog, you expect it to behave in an intelligent fashion, right? Like it breaks the suspension of disbelief otherwise. Like if your dog pushes you off a cliff or jumps into lava, you're reminded that you're just playing a game at like every stage. It basically like, it breaks the continuity of the game, right? You're taken out of it and, you're all suddenly thinking about the bugs in the game rather than the game itself. So yeah, like I said, to make it a fully realized feature, like, would likely take, hundreds of hours of coding, probably way more than, Notch is willing to devote to it. And unless you actually do that, it's a cheap gimmick that breaks the suspension of disbelief. So yeah, when I saw that, man, like, I don't know, something just kind of snapped in me, and like I really love the game, and like I've mentioned before, I have something like 15 years experience in the game industry, and I just kind of saw Notch going down this path with the wolves, that I knew couldn't end well, so I started this huge, like, you may remember the wolves Notch or Notch wolves are a bad idea thread, like in the in the beta survival forum. And, I think it got like hundreds, if not thousands of posts, like huge frigging debate. Like immediately the Wolfaboos pounced on me. Like I tried, I tried to make like a well-reasoned argument based on my experience, and it really was a heartfelt plea to Notch, not like a
screw you to Notch.
Well, yeah, no, it wasn't a slam. Like, a lot of people took it as that, I was putting them down, that, they were saying to me, well, if you don't like it, you shouldn't play the game, yada, 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 and it was really nothing to do with that. It was the fact that I love the game, and I basically saw the creator going down this path that could only fuck it up, So, I decided to make that heartfelt pledge, and then at a certain point that kind of like mutated, during the discussion I started like putting forth ideas of like, well, with the time he's already invested in it, he could have easily done X, Y, and Z, and that would have made, just little things like minecart boosters back in the day, light blocks, all this kind of stuff, right? Just stuff that basically everybody wanted in the game, right? And they could actually do stuff with and enjoy and make contraptions out of, and like, it would extend the gameplay experience, and which would be way, way easier than Wolves, Like, man, I can't imagine Notch requiring more than a couple of hours to put together something like a light block, right? It's really like, it's modding 101. It was absolutely the first block I did. Like, it took me way more than a couple of hours just because I was learning the code base. But man, to somebody that knows the code base, and especially as intimately as Notch, that's garbage. It's like, you could turn that, well, you could turn that out in no time. Everybody fucking loves it, off you go. You just improved your game, and you didn't create like this huge time sink that everybody views as a bug, like, what happened with Wolves, Like, I think everybody is still waiting, like, amongst the Wolfaboos, they're probably still all waiting for, like, the Wolves to be completed. And at least what I've seen from the update schedule to release of Minecraft, like, I don't think the Wolves are going to be revisited. What we got is what we got, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, I started throwing around those kind of suggestions. That ended up mutating into a thread in its own right, in which I ended up challenging people. Okay, like, can each of you come up with six block ideas, that you think would be easier to implement than Wolves and would have more impact on the game overall. So the ideas started flying, and not everybody had six, but definitely some good ones came out of it. Like, I remember the hibachi wasn't even mine originally. That was a guy that went by the name of Gunboat Debater that was in that original thread, and said he always wanted to see some kind of, basically redstone barbecue, that you could turn on and off. And I thought that was a great idea, like, I wasn't even thinking in terms of the entire tech tree of the mod at that time and like all the uses that block has now. But just the idea of having that for traps and like SMP and that kind of shit, like, it made sense. You have the ability to create fire in the game. You have redstone. Okay, why can't you create fire with redstone? So yeah, and eventually that challenge set, I just eventually said, screw it. Okay, well, I'm going to take, my favorite 6 ideas out of this, and I'm just going to rig a mod out of it. And basically better than Wolves was born out of that, so it's kind of been an evolutionary process since, of just like building on those original 6 ideas. So yeah, sorry for the epic response to the question, but there you go. There's the history rundown.
Yeah, that actually answered quite a few questions I had.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, man. I tend to ramble.
That's no problem.
Cool.
That was a long answer.
Yeah, I know, man. Don't get me started.